Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is the final video in our Koa Mongo Node.js application. Basically, you've kind of already partially deployed it. There are a couple things we want to clean up as far as that Heroku deployment. So if you had some problems, probably things I'm about to tell you will fix those problems. The first thing I want to mention is the proc file. Okay, this should actually still say node, not index, but it should say web node index.js. The web just kind of tells it that, hey, we're creating a web server specifically. Okay, I mean, it still works without it, but that might clean up a little bit of the problem. Also, let's skip down to our listener. Okay, make sure that your listener looks like this. The reason being is that before we just set it to 5,000, but what's going to happen is that there's going to be an environmental variable that Heroku creates called port that'll tell it what port it wants, and it can change depending on what Heroku wants. You want to make sure this variable is there. So what this basically says is process.env.PORT. We're going to use that variable for our port if it exists, if it doesn't exist, or 5,000. So it'll try this one first, and if that doesn't work, it'll try the 5,000 and then listen on 5,000. So I got rid of those other parameters that I had here earlier. So make sure that your listener looks like that. Okay. And the other thing is connecting to Mongo. Just make sure that your environmental variable has the full URL in the environmental variable. If you have trouble getting the full URL into the environmental variable, which for some reason I've done every other time, this time was giving me a little bit of trouble. What I did instead is I made a variable out of the username and password in the URL. Okay, and then just basically use interpolation, which means instead of using quotation marks, I use backticks. And if you don't know what backticks are, they're generally in the upper left corner of your keyboard. So using backticks instead of quotation marks, I put the URL, and then where the username and password would be, I put in my environmental variables, which are in my .env file. Okay, either way, as long as that we're connecting to the right URL, that will work, and that should do it. That will make sure that everything is okay with Heroku. Okay, it was really mainly this probably was giving you a problem after the last video. Assuming that your environmental variable had the right URL in it in full. Okay, I think I might have accidentally put a space when I did in the last video. Okay, so now we remember we had a problem with Nunjucks, okay, and it was rendering funny and whatnot. I did figure out this problem. It is going to require a minor refactoring of our code, okay, but it'll be actually fairly quick. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to where our views are, and what you need to do is you need to download another library. So what we're going to do is the problem seems to be these libraries, or at least the combination of the libraries or the way we implemented them. They just didn't work in the way we did our application. Okay, I'm sure there's ways to do the application which they'll work smoothly, but it just wasn't. What I did is I switched it out for Koa Nunjucks 2, okay, which is a package that specifically, instead of having Koa views facilitates like all sorts of different templating engines. Koa Nunjucks focuses specifically on Nunjucks, and Koa Nunjucks 2 focuses on the newest versions of Koa which we are using. Okay, so make sure you install that. If you want, you can uninstall the other two. I commented out what I had before, okay, just so that way it's there in case I needed it back. So whenever you make big changes to your code, that's always good practice. Don't rush to delete what you already have because you may need to get it back, or so comment it out, try the new code, and if it works, just probably hold on to it till you're getting into production and there's really everything's working fine. Okay, so we bring in Koa Nunjucks 2, so that's what that is. So I'm just bringing it into the code. Okay, this actually we don't need, so we can delete this. Originally I used the version that's in the documentation for Koa Nunjucks 2, which actually kind of gave me the same problem, that used this path variable. Path is a package that comes with Node for being able to access your file system or pull information from your file system. That wasn't helping, at least at this point. So we'll show you what I did. So now we have to go back and put Koa Nunjucks 2 in your middleware. So let's go down to our middleware, which is right here. Okay, so here I commented out what we had before. and then I put this in. Okay, so this is just bringing in using the Koa and Nunjucks objects, which is our Koa and Nunjucks 2, saying that and you could put HTML or NJK. I used NJK because I had already renamed everything to NJK at this point. Okay, so again, that's the Nunjuk extension. So everything with an NJK file is automatically going to be detected by Koa and Nunjucks as long as it's in the views folder. Okay, when you read the documentation, this is going to look a little bit different because they use path to kind of combine it with your file path and the /views. That was creating the same problem. Okay, so I'm assuming that possibly under the hood of the Koa views folder was doing something like that under the hood, but this worked like a charm. Okay, using this relative path worked a lot better. Okay, and then this I didn't change from the documentation. So basically, you're just plopping in this block of code in your middleware. Again, commenting out this one. Again, you can always comment things out by hitting Control C, Control backslash. So I can uncomment it, comment it. So that way it's ignored by the code. So basically, your middleware should have your method override, your parser. Doesn't really matter what order those two are. Your Nunjucks, which is your views, your routing, and your static folder. So that way that's all aligned. Okay. And with that, we are done. Now, just to make sure that it's all nice and working, let's kick up our server. Okay, which I still have running from yesterday, so that's wonderful. There we go. Node index.js. Wait for it to connect. And then connect it to Mongo, so we're good to go. Let's go to my browser. Let's go to the root. Okay, and it works. And then here are all the different blog posts. So again, I just made it where in the screen you're just seeing the title. So if I click on it, it takes me to the individual blog post item. Nice, no error. Okay, now if I want to go to the admin page that we created, and it works. Okay, if I want to create a post, put in our password. Again, yours is going to be whatever you set it at in your environmental variables. Complete. Good. Okay, now if I want to go back to the main page, it works. It all works. Okay, now if I want to go back to admin to delete a post, oh, typed in the wrong URL. Okay, so if I want to delete this, I would put in my password and delete. Oh, buttons. There we go. Complete. Cool. And then if I go back to admin, that post will no longer be there. Ooh. Okay. Yep. This will give me a little bit of a hiccup after the use of the delete button, but for the most part, we're all up and running. So you can kind of refactor your code however you want at this point, but you have a working Koa application using Mongo and Node.js. We can go back and push it up to Heroku. So let's do that. Control C. So again, if you followed everything I did in the last video, you already know all you have to do is git push Heroku master, and it's going to basically do, oh, I got to commit changes. First I got to git add my changes. So git add period, so it adds all my changes. Then git commit -m minor changes. I already committed it once with the main changes we made in this video. Cool. And then git push Roku master. Okie dokie. So then again, it's going to push everything, deploy it, and we'll go see it live online. So that way you can see that it's working online as well. Okay, and then here's the thing. Koa is very flexible. Like, there's multiple routing libraries, multiple fuse libraries, multiple libraries for everything. So you can kind of really build up your workflow. So this is just one example of how to build an application with Koa using these particular packages, in this particular way that I use them. Okay, there's a lot of experimentation to learn. There's a lot more to learn about Koa, but now you have the basic tools to create pretty much anything you'd like, because you now know how to interact with the Mongo database and create data and store data and whatnot. Now, if you wanted to learn some more stuff, what I'd recommend learning is one session, like basically how to an authentication. This way you can actually create like users and keep track of when they're logged in. It's actually not as hard as it looks. I just started doing that in Express, but I think we did a good job of you making a blog, and this is a good stopping place for this particular video series. Okay, but now that that's all deployed, let's go check out the URL. It's always right here at the end. Okay, and again, Heroku stuff always takes a little second to load, because the way Heroku works is that technically if your website hasn't been accessed for half an hour, it shuts down that server until somebody else tries to access it, and then it spins it back up. So if you ever go to a Heroku URL and it's taking a while to load, it's probably because it's been a while since I was accessed, so it's spinning that server back up. Okay, but yeah, so here I can take a look at the different blog posts, okay, and do my thing. Boo. Okay, let's see here. If I go to create, am I good? The blog. Boo. Did it not change? Let me try here. Let's try this. New incognito window. Might be working for my cached version, because it was working locally. See, that's all good. That's all good. Let's go to admin. See, okay, yeah. So it probably was a cached version in my main browser. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. And I can go and edit it, make edits, all that fun stuff. So it's working. Cool. So enjoy, leave a comment, share this with your friends, and basically, technically, now that you've done this, I mean, practice some session authentication. Look it up how to do session and authentication in Koa. There's probably a Koa authentication library, Koa session library. But really, at this point, you can create a blog. You are a full stack developer. You've done everything from configuring the database, designing the website, to designing how the server works. You did it all. I mean, now it's just practice and trying to do crazier, more ambitious things with your abilities with Koa, Node, and Mongo. So thank you very much. Have a great day and enjoy.